the bump and run, the Bristol move.
That's aggressive, but that's good. Good hard racing. Oh, he puts him out of the groove there.
Oh, man.
Will he get the bumper? Yes, he does. Here comes Logano. Logano on the inside. A drag race. They're sideways. And it's going to be Logano getting the win.
The back end of the 18. Kick out.
Yeah, he got into it right there.
Moved him out of the way.
Just got the lead.
It's almost too early to be racing that hard for the lead, wasn't it?
Never too early to be racing for the lead.
At Bristol.
At Bristol.
Man, this is one of the biggest wins of my career.
It's the bump and run,
Baby.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by one of my best friends, Eric Daytona Ron. Matt the Statman Reilly couldn't make it tonight. He is a little under the weather, and he's pulling it old school. He's got one of those summer colds or something going on, but he's bundled up under the covers. I say, Eric, that we make him do a book report on this podcast to make sure that he's still dedicated to the Bump and Run podcast. What do you think about that?
We have to keep him accountable. You know, accountability is everywhere. And this week in NASCAR, especially at Darlington, accountability came into play on both the drivers, the teams, and the pit crew. So it does make sense.
He's on the injured reserve list for the first race of the playoffs, and that's sad. You can't go into the playoffs doing that. You're going to get yourself behind. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff on YouTube. Oh, I forgot to say, hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had yourselves a Kyle Larson type of weekend, because he was the big winner down in Darlington. Me and Daytona Ron both had him in our fantasy lineups because we were watching practice, baby. We knew that car was a long run car, and it paid off on the long run. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Podcast available every Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. Except today is Tuesday, of course, because it was a Labor Day weekend. And then next week, we're going to do it on Tuesday again because Matt the Statman has to watch the Jets play on Monday Night Football. I think his time would be better used here instead of watching that scrub team. But we will see. And Eric, how was your weekend? I saw you on Sunday for the race. Had yourself a little party at the hole, and I went up for that. But, man, how was your weekend other than that?
It was a good Labor Day weekend. Went to the old local Suds and Grub on Friday night. Took it easy Saturday. So that Sunday, you know, had a party up the hole there in the garage for the race like I normally do every year. And the weather was perfect. It was hot during the day, but at my house, I'm in the bottom of a mountain. Kind of shade comes over pretty quick, so it was cool enough for when people arrived that it wasn't, too bad in the garage sitting there watching the race. And we definitely tied one on there, Whitey.
Oh yeah, it was a nice, cool night in the garage. It got a little buggy once the sun went down.
Oh, dude, the bugs, bro, the bugs. I think it's this heat with this. They were perfectly fine until this warm weather where we're at here just moved in here. The last 4 or 5 days here are going to be in the high 80s, close to 90s. And I think it just brought the bugs out with it because I didn't have any issues prior to that. But, man, those mosquitoes and everything were out.
Yeah, that bug zapper was going crazy all night long. I think didn't it break the record for the most amount of kills in a minute or something?
Dude. Yeah, we were playing cards on Wednesday night. And at one point in time, a swarm of gnats must have came towards the garage. And oh, my God, we counted 36 zaps within a minute. And I think we got 49, close to 50 zaps.
I think it was over 50. I forget exactly. Yeah. Kimmy, if you're listening, you were the one counting. I'm sure you remember better than we do. Put a little
Not
comment.
Like those old school bug zappers, though. You know what I mean? I'm like that UV, and you just, when you hear that moth get in there, there was one that caught fire the other night. It was so big. But that's the sounds of summer. You know what I mean? You got the bug zapper going, you got the cold cans cracking, and the fire blazing in the background.
You know what? I got to get you for up the Harding hole. We need to get you a pink flamingo for the front yard. Really tie the place all together. But
dude, how about when it got late at night? I got to bring this up just to put it out there. I forgot about it, dude. How about Starlink going across the sky, dude? How crazy was that,
dude? It was like a straight line of satellites just floating around a Starlink. If I didn't know any better, which I didn't, someone told me it was Starlink, I would thought we were getting invaded by aliens, man. That shit was crazy.
Dude, everybody's I think Luke was out by the fire. He's like, oh, everybody come out of the garage. And I'll tell you what, I saw a tail end of it once at my house where there was only maybe 5 or 6 of them I saw in a row going.
Yeah.
But we saw the full line of them. And there had to have been 20, 30 of them in a row. It was insane.
At least that, because you want to know what? I kept thinking it was going to end and it never did. It was pretty wild. Yeah.
So that was cool to see. I had to bring that up. The first time I ever saw it. I don't know if any of you ever seen, the full line of Starlink go by, but man, on Sunday night, it was a spectacle.
I wonder if you could track that online, like see when it's going to be above you.
Oh, I'm sure there are. If you could track airplanes and flights, you could definitely see where that's flying overhead. You could do it with the space station too. So I would imagine you could see where the Starlink is at all times.
Oh yeah. And man, did you guys bust out the telescope later on or no?
Oh yes, we did. We got Saturn in, Jupiter. It's 4 moons. It was crystal clear, dude. That's
been space talk on the Bump and Run podcast.
Oh yeah.
But I had a pretty good weekend too. Did all sorts of crazy stuff. Not crazy, but just like every day was a different type of day. Went to a winery on Friday, had a nice couples date night. And then Saturday, La Festa Italiana in Scranton, walk around Scranton.
Jealous.
Yeah.
Jealous.
You want to know what though? The crowds, man. The crowds kill me. Everyone's just bumping into you and shit. No one apologizes and says they're sorry.
My grandfather. I mean, this is rare because I don't know. I think our area only has church bazaars and stuff like that, and like picnics or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
My grandfather always refused to go to them because he was always like, "Oh, what am I gonna do? It's hot. It's sweaty. It's shoulder to shoulder. What? I'm gonna eat my food out of a paper cup, standing there next to everybody else." He goes, "No." He goes, "I'm going to get my food. I'm going to take it home, and I'm going to eat it like a normal human being at my kitchen table." I go, "You know what? That's
that's
pretty
the way
valid
to do
reason,
it. That's the way to do it. I think as I get older, that's what I'm going to do too, because we walked in, got our food, ate, and then left immediately and got dessert somewhere else. So, and then of course the party at the Hole was a great time. And Labor Day, I was doing a little yard labor. But I didn't want to be laboring.
Come on, Whitey. I did nothing. I didn't even unlock my door from the night before to go outside. I didn't step outside once on Labor Day, laid on the couch in the air conditioning, and I enjoyed my day off of no work.
That's how to do it. But anyways, let's get into the NASCAR weekend. But first, we got some NASCAR news to talk about. Just a couple stories. Pretty light news week, actually.
One big one, though, I think that kind of could get rid of some rumors we might have talked about in the last week or so.
Absolutely. The first one, Penske's swapping some crew chiefs. Austin Cindric and Harrison Burton swapped crew chiefs going into this weekend. Cindric was reunited with his Xfinity crew chief, Brian Wilson. They had a ton of wins together in the Xfinity series. Eric, what do you think about picking up that crew chief from the Wood Brothers?
Why? I just don't understand why they just didn't transition together from the start. I mean, everyone was hyped around Cindric and, how he performed in the Xfinity, and when he had his Select Cup, rides and appearances, how well he did there, mainly road courses, but
yeah,
the talent was there. He had, the ability, and he had a buzz around him.
Yeah,
but it seems like you cut that crew chief off sometimes. That is the main part in a lot of these drivers' success. I mean, you look at Jimmy and Chad, you look at MTJ and Small. I mean, Rodney Childers and Harvick. Like when you find, I hate to bring it up, Whitey, but Tyler Reddick and Randall Burnett.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, that to you, that's got to feel like the same thing. Like, damn, he went. Like, why not take my crew chief with me? And I bet you Cindric was a little irritated by it as well, because you find that rapport together. Like, Cindric could say this, and this about his car, and his crew chief knows exactly what he's talking about. He could say that same thing to another crew chief, and it might not go over as well with this new crew chief. He might not understand the language and some of the terminology, the way Cindric will describe his car. You need a crew chief that could understand and break that down as well. And I think this will benefit him. I think you might even see a little uptick in his progress, which he got his win in his rookie year. He's here and there. Penske isn't doing that great as a whole, but I think this is a big move for Cindric to maybe keep that Penske team going. And I think they're chasing RFK, dude. I think they're seeing the success of RFK, and they're like, whoa, we have our stable here. How can we make it better? We got to do something to match RFK. And this looks to be one of those changes to possibly keep up with. not even get to, just to keep like their RFK is the crop of Fords, and this seems to me like Ford doing something to keep up.
Especially since Cindric is like the weakest link at Penske. You know, you can't even deny it. And to your point, I don't know why they don't bring their crew chiefs up. I feel like it's with the bigger teams. They kind of have their Xfinity crew chiefs. They have their Cup crew chiefs. You saw it with Stewart-Haas Racing, where Cole Custer, he moved up, Briscoe moved up. They don't take those guys along with them, and I think that's kind of why they struggle. Reddick kept his crew chief when he came up from the Xfinity series, but now like take a look at William Byron. William Byron moved up. I feel like he didn't really gel with Chad Knaus his first couple seasons when Chad went over there to run the car for him. And then same thing, I forget who his last crew chief was. They bring up his old truck crew chief, Rudy Fugle, and they're fucking killing it. They're going on a tear. They're on, like, this is the best season they've had together so far. And we saw the shades of it last season where they were really starting to click. Like you said, it's learning that language and stuff. And just learning a new crew chief is probably half the battle for a driver with any type of move. You know what I mean? So yeah, hopefully we'll see some improvement out of Cindric. Like you said, back in that same page, back where he could break down a car a little bit better and stuff. But yeah, you would think you would see more of this. And I think you're right. This is definitely Penske kind of chasing the other Ford teams a little bit too, because I don't know what's going on.
That's the way I read it. You know what I mean? Like, they're watching this RFK team just kind of take full control. And, this is something where kudos to them, because you can't just let it happen. You have to actively do something to keep up as well. And I think this will allow Austin to be a little bit more comfortable and calm behind the wheel, knowing and hearing a familiar voice, knowing the struggles that they went through together in Xfinity, how to calm a guy. So I think he'll be a little bit more relaxed in the car and be able to focus on driving rather than trying to focus on, he doesn't understand what I'm telling him. How else? So he's focusing on that while he's trying to drive as well. So I think overall, when you have that good crew chief driver combo, that makes a world of difference.
I tell you what, this isn't the first time Penske's shaken it up in the last few years either. They're not afraid to move crew chiefs around. No. They moved all the crew chiefs a couple years ago when Todd Gordon moved over to Ryan Blaney and stuff. I forget, was Brian Wilson was he originally Blaney's crew chief, and then he got swapped to Brad, and then Logano's crew chief got swapped over to Blaney, and then Brad's crew chief got swapped over to Logano.
Swapped at one point in time, and like I wonder why would you like Logano? Why would you take his crew chief? You know what I mean? Like you think you'd want to leave him, and so you're right. They were all shuffling around, and teams do that quite often. That's seems to be the first thing that a team will try to do. To fix their program is, hey, let's shake up the crew chiefs. Yeah. And I think that's the least drastic thing that they could do. And not cost them money or anything like that, is to, hey, let's just get a change of environment and see how that goes. And you can't be afraid to do that, because, if keep doing the same thing every week, what's going to happen? The same thing's going to happen every week. So kudos to them for trying it out. I think it'll work.
Oh, yeah. And then speaking about swapped crews, Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs swapped pit crews for the playoffs. Wasn't looking like a good move early on, though. That first pit stop for Christopher Bell, not the best. What do you think about that, though? They tightened it up throughout the night. But what do you think about Bell and Gibbs swapping pit crews for the playoffs?
Man, I like it, because that 54 crew was lights out. Yeah. But this has shades of last year written all over it, man. Like, we criticized the move too. Remember Dave Moody? He was remember in that whole tweet battle going back and forth. What are you doing? Why would you do this? Blah, 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 blah. And it turned out that Bell had an issue in that first race when they swapped crews with Bubba. I think it was those two crew members. Yeah. And everyone's like, see, I told you, well, look what happened. You shouldn't have switched or whatever. And Bell went on to, do what he did last year. So if this is any, inkling of kind of, I mean, this is in my records later on. I'll kind of hint to this, but kind of get it out of the way now. First race, I think they'll be fine from here. You know, it's that first live action, new pit crew, getting used to him coming in to stop, little jitters, new thing, pressure's on.
Oh yeah.
So now the first race is over with. The pressure might be off a little bit, you know, as far as performing. You got that one race under your belt. You're good to go. So I don't see it being a huge problem. He had this same situation happen last year to him with the pit swap and problems and issues. And was it the right move, wrong move? And he went back-to-back cutoff races to win, to propel himself forward. So they know how to battle adversity.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about it. I think overall by the end of this playoffs, I think you will see that this works out to benefit him rather than one race a little falter.
Oh yeah, he did fall a lot in the points though. He's only 1 point to the good right now. Of course, though, we've seen him battle adversity last year in the playoffs and come through pretty well. Made it to the round of 4, and I think he could still do it. The thing that helps, a lot of the playoff guys had worse days than him, and we'll get to that throughout the show. Ryan Preece returned to racing this week after his huge crash at Daytona. Of course, all those multiple flips. His eyes look terrible. Did you see the picture of his eyes?
Yes, I'm gonna say it. He shouldn't have raced on Sunday. I'm gonna be the one to say it. I don't care what Preece says. I don't care that he says I'm fine. I feel good. I think there should have been some kind of team doctor. There should have been a wife, a mother, a father, somebody there to be like, hey, dude, you're not in the playoffs. You didn't do this. You just had a wicked crash. And I know you're a tough guy. I would have to get told the same thing, that I couldn't go. But after the fact, I would thank every single one of those people that told me not to go. You look at what he did on Sunday. You mean to tell me that wasn't a driver that had some issues after a flip at Daytona? I think there was. So I don't know. I think someone should have stopped him there. I don't think he was fully okay to race on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know what caused those.
Well, look at him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look at him, and you're like, dude, sit down. Put some ice on your fucking head and go sit down in your hauler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know what caused those bloodshot eyes and the puffy eyelids and stuff. But if he didn't have a concussion, I don't know how he passed concussion protocols. To be honest with you, like I don't know if that's a sign of a concussion, but it's definitely a sign of some sort of trauma to your head area. Man, just rough.
Bro, Blaney had a hard time, and that was one of the worst hits too. And like,
yeah,
I mean, I get these drivers are tough, but like one's in the playoffs, one's not. There's kind of circumstances to where, you know, old ball coach, are you hurt or are you injured type of thing. And, you know, when Preece is, you know, if he's watching all these other drivers, Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman, and like some of these people that have these bad crashes, you know, you kind of want to second guess going back out there when there's really nothing on the line. There's a race win on the line, but come on, it's playoffs now.
Yeah.
What do you take care of yourself? Take care of your body. And I'm probably on the outskirts of, I think he should have, it's badass what he did and he tweeted and all that. That's all fine to talk about, but I think there should have been some guidance there from up above.
Yeah, I mean the 28th place finish, not really worth worth doing more damage, you know?
Oh yeah.
And then the big piece of news just announced on Sunday, right before the race, Denny Hamlin signed a multi-year extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. So that puts all the rumors to bed. The contract's buttoned up. What do you think about Denny coming back for a couple more years?
I think that was always the writing on the wall for me, at least. I think his relationship has always been the best out of anybody in that JGR camp. Even Kyle Busch, I knew like, maybe not. They could be, and you're like, what, Kyle Busch? I think it's all the relationship. I think Denny and with FedEx, how he handles them, team owner. I just think he's always had the better relationship with Joe Gibbs over there. And to me, there was really no scare, or I know there's rumors, but I kind of stuck to my gut feeling that he would be back with Toyota and JGR. And just keep that alliance. They have something good going on, and I think he sees some writing on the wall with Legacy coming over to Toyota that is going to help them in super speedways now that Atlanta is one. A little bit more teammates. I think he's going to play this the right way, and I think it's a good thing for the sport. I think it's a good thing for Denny. It's a good thing for you.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. And so it just it's not a surprise to me.
Yeah, it's not really a surprise to me either. I know a lot of people compare the whole deal to the Kyle Busch situation, but I didn't see it playing out the same way.
Right.
Like you said, Joe Gibbs seems like he prioritizes Denny and obviously his grandson a little bit more than everybody. Denny was really good friends with JD Gibbs. Like, it just seems like it's a different type of relationship than Kyle Busch.
It feels more father-son. It's almost like Denny is a relative, a family member of Joe Gibbs now. And that's, like I said, it's that relationship that I felt that Kyle Busch never really had, you know?
It's like the Jeff Gordon, Rick Hendrick relationship, just a little bit more personal. Denny Hamlin seems like he never really wanted to leave either. Like he wanted to be a Joe Gibbs ever since he was a kid, So
yeah, he never let the rumors take flight. You know what I mean? He could have let everyone speculate and did this, did that. And it was starting, but just as fast as it started, guess what he just did? He got the deal done. So, he kind of, I think he's loyal. He's stuck true to his team owner.
And to be honest with you, Kyle Busch is a little different perceived now, but Denny Hamlin way easier to sell to sponsors. I feel like he's squeaky clean. He's in commercials for
he's part of the Coke team too.
Little
so
Caesars, Coke family drivers, all that stuff. So I feel like I wasn't too worried about Denny leaving either. But that's all I have for NASCAR news. We have a race weekend to talk about. Speaking of Denny Hamlin, he was the big winner in the Xfinity race down in Darlington. Did you get a chance to see the Xfinity race at all?
I did not, no.
Yeah, me either. I was kind of just listening here and there. I was listening while I was kind of in the grass at my mom's house, and then dipped out, had to go to the radio station, and came back to it. So I was all over the place. But Denny Hamlin got it done in Darlington. He's so damn good at Darlington, especially in an Xfinity car. And then the Cup race, Kyle Larson led once for 55 laps, lasted 4 hours, 8 minutes, and 47 seconds. We saw 8 cautions for 51 laps and 13 lead changes among 7 different drivers. Your top 5, Kyle Larson, second place, Tyler Reddick, third place, Chris Buescher, William Byron in fourth, and Ross Chastain in fifth. Kind of a surprising top 5 compared to the rest of the day. Things got shaken around a little bit near the end, but let's jump into the race grades. Eric, what'd you think about the race at Darlington?
I'll tell you what, I loved it. I thought it was a great opening race to the playoffs. This racetrack, it always is a challenge, and to open the playoffs, we ended at Daytona, wild, crazy, on the edge, anybody could win. Now at Darlington, it's a different kind of animal. Playoff drivers are going to have some trouble. People are going to tag the wall and cross that line to be fast. And we saw all of that. And the 45 and 5, man, the camera on the back of their cars watching them go around as close to the wall as they were, was absolutely phenomenal to watch. And, it had everything to do with accountability as teams here. And, a lot of green flag stops. You had to go down. You had to make your marks. The pit crew had to do what they had to do. It was that type of race. You needed clean air. It's still an issue in my mind as far as the car goes, because the top kind of was the dominant line. And the bottom, if you restarted there, if you didn't slide up, you were losing 4 or 5 spots. You were getting trained around the top. So it kind of caused a lot of non-passing, I should say, in the front because of that clean air, and the cars were kind of similar on speed in one lane in a way to kind of get around the racetrack. And that wasn't the greatest in my eyes as far as the racing goes. But like we always say here on the Bumper Run podcast, every race isn't the same. And don't have racing excitement every week, but you also have so much more. Pits, the strategies, all of that comes into play. So switch your focus to that. And that's what I did. And you knew it was going to be a long run race. We talked about that, Whitey, with our fantasy. And
oh yeah,
you hope that would play out. And I know we were talking in the garage about that too, where it's like, oh, no caution. Like, let's see how this works out. Like, as much as certain people wanted cautions to come out and needed cautions, we were in the boat of we want to see this go green.
I liked it going green.
Let's see these long run cars play out. And I don't think we would have had the 45-5 battle if it wasn't for like the long runs and for them going green and having to extend that. And man, it was a fun race to watch. Ended with drama, some sore, feelings at the end. And that's what you want from a playoff race. And completely turned around the standings as far as the bottom to the top. Some guys fell, some guys gained big time. And you know what? What more could you ask for? It's race one of playoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, it shook the field up a little bit. It creates a lot of drama and excitement, a lot of drama between drivers going into the next round. And then don't forget, we have Bristol to end the round where a lot of payback could be given. Statman Matt gave it an A-. I agree. I gave it an A. I thought it was a great race. There might have not been a ton of battles for the lead, but the excitement came from pit road, and boy, was it exciting. When you had guys pitting, like my whole deal is I love to see like, okay, who's going to try to pit first? Who's going to try something different, try to get off sequence, and to see if they could jump the leaders. And that's what we were seeing. Saw a lot of great just fast pit stops where guys made up time. Like Eric Jones was in the top 5 because he was able to gain about 4 spots on pit road in one of those money stops during a caution. Like just a lot of excitement, a lot of guys like kind of going through and making up their time on pit road and then seeing how those tires made a difference, And
there was a ton of tire wear because there was a lot of green flag stops. In that first stage, I thought there were 2 different strategies going on when here the whole field just had to pit again. It was that quick, and like it kind of threw me off a little bit. So, whenever there's tire wear and strategy, that is going to make the race so much more exciting because of those stops that they have to nail.
Yeah, and like we had a lot of playoff guys not nail those stops early on, and I thought that was just exciting. Where like I think Christopher Bell kind of overshot his pit box, so that threw off the pit crew. Bubba did the same. I think Martin Truex Jr. did it too. I mean, it sucks for Denny. He had such a good run, but then he had that loose wheel, like that just ended his day right there.
I talked about it. You can't, man, they're so hard to trust because of these errors.
Oh yeah. And I was listening to an interview. I want to say it was on the morning. I forget, but someone was talking about, giving up those spots, like being okay with a slower pit stop, being okay to giving up 1-2 spots on pit road, as long as you know that they're going to be solid and consistent all day long, where
he had a rocket ship.
Yeah.
He had a rocket ship. I said it numerous times in the garage because he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happens all the time. Oh man, it's frustrating because I'm starting to turn on Denny Hamlin to the point where I'm almost rooting for him because all of this stuff the last few years just keeps happening. And it's just like, I just want him to get one already just so we stop talking about is Denny going to win a championship this year?
Yeah.
Is it going to be this year,
He led 3 times for 177 laps. He led over half the race. And just a loose wheel. And during the broadcast, I don't know if they ever figure out, but during the broadcast, the crew couldn't figure out what the hell he was feeling either. So like that sucks even more. It's like a phantom vibration or something like that. I think maybe they just messed up the tire pressure or something. I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened, but it definitely sucked. But it made for interesting racing. Do you think Kyle Larson comes through the field and beats Denny Hamlin? I don't know. I think it would have been tough.
I know. I said this, a Sunday night. The top 5 through stage 1 and 2 were kind of similar. You could even throw the top 10 in there as far as being similar. And once all of that stuff started happening, that really shook up the end of the race to see who did have that car to go up there and battle and win. Like I said, I would have loved to see Harvick, Slick Willie, Denny battling up there with the 45 and the 5, because I felt like those were the drivers that were up there battling the most and up there the most consistent. And it kind of took away from maybe the ending being a little bit, more interesting as far as battles for leads go, because if you have 2 cars battling for the lead at the end instead of 4 or 5 cars, that lap traffic, those 4 or 5 cars, there could have been some moves a little bit tighter and air. You never know how 5-car battle versus 2-car battle could have been at the end at Darlington there amongst, the heavy hitters and the playoff drivers. So we did get that ripped away from us a little bit, but just mistakes. This was a race of you can't have those mistakes. And like I said, Darlington open up the playoffs. It's known to do that.
Yeah.
It's known to shake things up because mistakes are going to happen. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and Darlington's that track that you race the track, you don't race the other drivers. You're racing tire wear essentially. But I thought it was fantastic, given A all day long. You want to jump into the checkers and wreckers? We're flying through the show.
3 wide for the lead. 1 lap to go.
It's this week's checkers and wreckers.
All right, I'm going to start with Statman Matt's checkers and wreckers. He texted all of these into us. He gives his checkers to RFK, just the most consistent team in Cup the last month, and totally agree. I mean, Buescher got 3rd. I think Brad got, 6th place? Where's Keselowski? Yeah, Brad Keselowski got 6th place, moving up in the point standings, in the playoff points, doing exactly what they need to do. And then his wreckers, Martin Truex Jr., what the fuck was that, Martin, was his quote. I'm not exactly sure. I know he was super sour because he picked Truex to win, and Truex was nowhere all day long. I think he started 27th or something like that and finished 18th maybe. Let me double check.
Yeah, I think it was 18th. Truex.
Oh, he started 31st actually, and he finished 18th.
I saw a stat with him where he has the best speed ranking or top 5 speed ranking at Darlington, but in the next gen car, he's DNF'd every single Darlington race. So he has speed, but something happens to him usually. So it was surprising that he wasn't up there with the success he's had this year, where they kind of figured it out, that 19 team. Yeah. And you would expect with his history at Darlington, just like his teammate Denny and Christopher Bell on the pole, you would think he would have showed up and had something for the field. But yeah, they maybe missed the mark there.
Yeah, I don't understand either, because all the other Toyotas were lights out fast, How about you, man? What's your checkers and wreckers?
So my wreckers, it goes right into that. My wreckers goes to Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., the Joe Gibbs crew. Essentially, they did what I thought they were going to do. Yeah. But instead, of Reddick, who I think that's who I mentioned, when I said that they couldn't be trusted as far as playing them in fantasy or, picking them to win a race. Going on into the playoffs, to me, there was always this dark cloud that hovers over those guys where, once again, how many times has Christopher Bell or Tyler Reddick had the pole, had the fastest cars out there, and just come home with a dog shit finish and not show anything that speed provided those guys? And, it's something that is concerning. I said in the beginning of the show, with Christopher Bell and his pit crew, where I think get it out of the way week 1 here is the playoffs. Maybe that is a good thing if hindsight's 2020, maybe looking back at this show,
shake that dog off you,
shake it off, get it off now, don't worry about it, and then it'll sort itself out later on. You want it now rather than later. You don't want it at all in the playoffs.
No.
So that was my thing. Could they correct that? Could they stop the bleeding that was happening throughout the summer and their they're mental errors that they have. They have the speed, but man, they just can't get it together. And I will continue to wreck them and criticize them and struggle to pick them.
Yeah. Moving
forward, if they keep having these errors on pit road, and you know, it's just something that I don't know how you fix it. But it's definitely a concern in my eyes as far as, you know, going on into the playoff 4. Like, I have the 11 and 19 there and the 19 winning it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I kind of contradict myself, but I have faith in the speed because speed usually prevails. Man, it made me a little bit more nervous about it.
Well, thankfully for Truex, he didn't drop too bad. He's still in 6th place. He dropped 4 positions. He was plus 36 to the good going into this race. He left plus 25. So he only lost about 11 points. Christopher Bell, though, he's right on the cut line. He only has 1 point to the good in 12th. Not looking good. Denny Hamlin, where's Denny at? Denny's in 5th.
Right above MTJ. So they fared pretty well. But you know, Truex had those wins and playoff points that he had going with them. But Bell, he could not afford that. And
no.
I wish it was anyone but Bell. I do this every time. Whitey, you heard me. As soon as the race started, what did I say?
You go, since my driver didn't make the playoffs, I'm rooting for Bell all playoffs long. He's my new guy for the playoffs.
And look what happens. You know, it tends to happen a lot when I say and speak it.
Yeah.
I tend to keep it in and not do a lot of that ball busting because I know comes back and you just gotta absorb it and you gotta own it. And I knew I shouldn't have said it. As soon as it came out of my mouth, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But my checkers goes to Carson Hocevar.
Yeah.
Might seem random, but I'm a Legacy Motor Club fan, and he filled in that 42 car, and he came in 17th at Darlington.
Yeah.
During the playoff.
Tough. That is tough.
And that is tough. And it's the best finish for that 42 at an intermediate all season. It's like besides super speedways. So there's been a lot of talk about Carson in the trucks and bad blood, similar to kind of the way Ty Gibbs, you know, some shady moves to get some wins, maybe, you know, a little roughhousing, not racing clean.
Yeah.
He's tightened that up a little bit. And when he's got his rides in Xfinity and his rides in Cup, I think he's made the most of it.
Yeah.
This might have, you know, brought him up the rankings as far as one of the top prospects in the sport moving forward because he's having the best truck season of his career, finally getting wins. And I saw a tweet where I agreed with it, where this is why I made it my checkers was because someone tweeted Carson Hocevar in the 42 finishing 17th at Darlington, solidified in his brain, and I think mine as well, 42 is his truck number. 42 did well at Legacy Motor Club. Now, every time I hear or see 42, I associate that with Carson Hocevar.
Yeah.
He is establishing himself with that number, with that car, and maybe, you know, to Noah's thing, he didn't do anything to etch his name into that 42 car.
Yeah, he didn't do. He didn't do shit.
42, what did he do to that? I associate the 42 with Noah. Nothing. I forgot about Noah already. Noah does not have anything to do with that 42 car. Someone else has an opportunity, and this is why you can't do that. Because the next man up, he didn't do anything. He didn't win in that car. He didn't get a lot of top fives in the car. He didn't do what Ty Gibbs is doing in the 54. He made that car his.
Yeah.
He owns that car now because he's done well, really well in that. So to me, with everything that Noah didn't do and with everything that Carson is doing in the truck, I know that's his 42's number there. And now to hop into this 42 in Legacy, man, I know we talk about John Hunter Nemechek taking that ride, but, you know, he's been in this ride. If they're going over, I don't know. There's a lot of good opportunities for Carson. I know he probably won't be in that 42 car, but it just goes to show that whatever ride Carson's in, he makes his stamp on it.
Yeah.
And he makes it his car or his truck. And I just think it was impressive because he's still young. He still has a lot of learning to do, but it seems like he's taking the path of Ty Gibbs where he's making the mistakes, but learning from those mistakes, correcting those mistakes, and moving forward the right way. So props for Carson, and we know how bad that 42 car has been. And Barry's been in it, and now Carson. So it was impressive.
And you want to know what? You got to think too, even back to Carson's first Cup start at Gateway, when LaJoie was filling in for the 9 car, and then Carson was running that 7 Spire car. What was the story that day? It wasn't how well Corey LaJoie's running that 9 car. It was holy shit, Carson Hocevar is in the top 15, running solidly in the top 15 until I forget what exactly happened to him. I think he got wrecked out or brake failure. Did he have a brake failure?
It was a parts failure thing, but
he walked out of that day showing like, hey, I mean, I was pretty impressed. And then to follow it up at Darlington a month later, get yourself a top 20 in a very hard to race track as a Truck Series regular, not even an Xfinity Series regular. It goes to show you he is maturing and he is getting better very quickly. In fact, I heard an interview with him a couple of weeks ago. He went on DBC, which they were never nice to him for all the dumb shit he's done in the Truck Series.
I know that. Yeah,
he walked into the Lions Den. I give him a lot of respect for that alone. But he told a story that he came into Junior Motorsports to, I forget exactly what. Either it was Junior Motorsports, he was over at Spire, but Junior was there, something along those lines. And Junior goes, when are you going to stop tearing shit up? And like to that's where he says it clicked. And ever since then, he's been trying to get better at just, controlling emotions, racing cleanly, racing smart, and not doing dumb shit. And so far, I don't know if he'll end up over at the 42, especially with that Toyota switch. And of course, the John Hunter Nemechek rumor, but Spire's going to need a driver, I think, right? I can't see them re-signing Ty Dillon in the 77. He hasn't done shit either. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. I think Dillon's on a 1-year deal anyways. I don't know. Silly season's getting exciting. I know Colleague Racing has an announcement for the 31, but they said they want to keep that under wraps until a couple weeks into the playoffs. That's another Chevy car. Hocevar's driving a Chevy truck. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's it for your checkers and wreckers, right?
Yeah.
All right. So my wreckers, I'm wearing the 99 shirt for a reason. Repping my boy Daniel Suarez because Alex Bowman, that first block, it was fine. I'll give him that first block. But to chase him up the track was another thing. He ended up wrecking himself and Suarez. Just a dumb move. I don't know what the history between the two is, but Bowman just flat out wrecked himself. He just flat out wrecked himself into the wall. I don't know. Did you see that whole incident any different than I did?
No, I think that's kind of how everybody's kind of looking at this. They looked back. They said, okay, was there anything? So there was a little bit on track going back and forth. So, yeah, it was just a bonehead move where this is what Darlington does. Like I said, frustration comes in and this happens and they're not in the playoffs and they're still racing hard. And this is a crazy thing about our sport. I had a friend that was up, Mike, that was up at my house watching the race last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. And he asked about the playoffs. Like, oh, does everybody drive or does the only 16 drivers go out? I said, no, everybody drives.
Yeah.
And that, like, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, there's still a full field that are racing for their own owners' points, team points. They're racing their own individual race. Every single one of those cars, whether you're in the playoffs or not. So the playoff drivers have to manage that. So when you have two cars, like the 99 and the 48, doing dumb shit like that, if I'm Kyle Larson, if I'm, any of these other playoff drivers, I am looking at them. If you're my teammate going, what the fuck are you doing, dude? You could have easily ruined the race for me, dude. Battling for what? You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I think it's dumb, but I also love to see it that they're still racing hard like that.
Oh, yeah.
When kind of they know the main goal, like when the team's not going to make the Super Bowl, but they still try to beat the shit out of the team in front of them to maybe screw them over or make their playoff seed a little bit worse if they lose to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a little bit of that, like, I'm going to stick one to you, you know? But yeah, just bonehead. I couldn't agree more, Whitey.
Yeah, it seems like they have some history too. There were some tweets back and forth about crew chiefs and whatnot. I don't even know what's going on.
Were those two the ones where the wives were getting involved too on Twitter? Where some like, or was that Justin? I think one of them, Justin Mark's wife, might have tweeted something at Bowman. I think it was.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. I'll have to go and look for that. I didn't see that part. I saw the crew chiefs tweeting about each other.
There was beef. Yeah, flipping each other off and stuff. Yeah.
I know Suarez's wife will tweet some shit too. She doesn't take any shit on his part either, so she's always got her man's back. My checkers, I got to give it to Joey Logano and his crew, to be honest with you. Yeah, you know, I was originally going to give it to Kyle Larson, but that's just low hanging fruit. I wanted Joey Logano and his crew. He hit the fence early on, did some damage, and then Bubba got into the back of him too, caused even more damage. All night long, they were like stuck around like 18th to 20th. But his crew just kept working on that car, trying to fix the toe link and all that stuff, make it drive better and better. And they were able to salvage a 12th place finish and really capitalize on some other playoff drivers' worse luck. And I just had to give props because that's what you have to do in the playoffs. And it worked out for him because Logano went from 11th, 8 points to the good. And he jumped, well, actually, he stayed in the same spot, but he's only 3 points to good. But he could have dropped way worse and be in Christopher Bell's position. So I'm just
so frustrated because you've been listening to our show for the back half of the year. What have I said, Whitey? Penske, I should say, Logano, they don't have speed.
No.
They never had speed. Guess what they do? They wait for everyone else to fuck up, and then they just take advantage of it.
For real?
And it's getting so tiring, dude. Like, it's going to come down again. It's going to be so frustrating where, like, the car that is not fast, the car that's not getting these multiple wins, he's just going to, like, play damage control.
Yeah.
You know, and not tear his shit up right around in 15th and carry on in these playoffs. And it's just, I see it every week, and it's just so frustrating that it just keeps happening.
It does get frustrating, especially since it's like Joey Logano, who none of us really like to root for or anything like that.
If this is Blaney, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, you're like, hell yeah, good for Blaney, you know?
Yeah.
But you know what? That's why Logano always goes far in the playoffs. He knows how to either capitalize on other people's woes or just keep his stuff clean. And I feel like this weekend, it wasn't really his fault, and he just kind of powered through it, you know? And
then guess what happened? The playoff other drivers, they took themselves out and shot themselves in the foot. And where did he go? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's every week. It's every week I see it happen, every week.
Yeah. I mean, you can't hate the guy, though, either. And you want to know what, though? To your point, you mentioned the Fords. Even if the Fords aren't that fast, they capitalize on issues. I mean, I didn't see Chris Buescher. I didn't see Brad Keselowski or Ryan Blaney in the top 10 all day long until the end. When guys got taken out, they took themselves out. The whole top 5 was basically Toyotas, and the only Toyota that finished in the top 5 is the guy that's been like the least consistent over the last 4 months. It was Tyler Reddick, you know?
And then, like, it's crazy because then he had William Byron and Ross Chastain up there as the
came
Chevys.
Out of
like,
nowhere.
Fords were like Harvick was literally the only one that was a dangerous Ford.
Yeah, he was in the top 5. He was in the top 5 all day long, like battling. No, he really was. But I remember when we were watching the race, you turned to me, you go, the Chevys are non-existent today. I go, they were garbage. They were garbage in practice and qualifying too. It just sucks. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. But then again, Kyle Larson won the race, so long run speed. Yeah. Sometimes you got to play the strengths of your team and the track.
And I'll tell you what, you know, it is low hanging fruit. I mean, it's Larson. We all know what he could do. And this was a racetrack where we knew him and Larson, where Reddick and Larson were going to dominate because you're up next to that wall. That's where the speed is coming from.
Yeah.
And you have to give credit, though, because that guy doesn't fucking blink, bro.
Mm-mm.
Like, when it comes to Darlington, first playoff race, like every restart, every pit stop, like he couldn't screw up.
No.
Reddick couldn't screw up.
Mm-mm.
Now, Reddick tagged the wall, but that's out of pure just trying to get to Larson.
No.
And it's like
there's
one could make it, one. I mean, it's you're right there against the wall, and Larson just didn't mess up. It all looked like he was loose at the end there.
Yeah.
But long run car, yeah, he was loose in the beginning, and then his car just, he's not as loose. Oh, he's not as loose. Okay, he's not as loose. And at a certain point there, he kind of, he didn't screw up. And to not screw up in that position, that's what championship drivers do. So you got to give him respect for not. He could have faltered there, and he didn't.
So there was one bad hit where Reddick tagged the wall and lost a good amount of ground to him.
Yeah.
But for a while there, I didn't pick up on it during the broadcast watching originally. I watched the race again today just to give myself a little bit of a refresher because, drinking in the garage and stuff, things get a little hazy. You forget what was going on near the end there. And yesterday when I was listening to Reddick's interview on Sirius XM, he said that Larson tagged the wall and got faster. So he kept tagging the wall too. Both of them kept hitting the wall in 3 and 4 and gaining speed. So they kept doing it. And when I was watching the broadcast over again, they kept talking about how Reddick kept hitting the wall. And they kept showing that camera, but they never lost any speed. So they just kept fucking going for it. And like, just to know that you could do that and kind of, manipulate it a little bit and use it to your advantage. That just goes to show you how good both those guys are at running that high line,
I just went back and I looked and I'm like, I thought I wrote that down, but I thought it was in my race grade.
Yeah.
I actually put that quote in my race grade that I was just skimming through when I was talking now live, but
yeah,
I have that in there where he said, I've never been faster while hitting the wall.
Yeah.
And continuing to be fast while hitting the wall. And I'm like, that is amazing. That just goes to show the talent of these guys running up there to even figure that out.
Yeah. Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? He even have the balls and because this is your point in the interview you were talking about, Whitey. He was talking about, how close to the line were you? He's like, I was over the line.
I
went over the line. And Whitey, as a fan of him, you have to love that.
Oh, yeah. Live
you
for it.
want him to try to get everything he can out of that car.
Yeah.
And goddamn, he did, And yes, it wasn't good enough to get up there and win, but he still came home second and he jumped way up in the standings, dude. And you should be thrilled coming away in second instead of a shitty slide job, a shitty getting to the bumper, and getting wrecked trying to win that race.
Yeah.
This is what Junior was telling Hocevar. This is what they're telling all these young guys. If you have a second place car, bring it home second.
Yeah.
Don't wreck it trying to win and come home 30th.
Exactly.
So once you learn how to do that, and I think Reddick did have a little trouble with that because I remember you saying whenever he's fast, he would tend to overdrive his equipment, and then he would end up putting himself into a position or a spot. Ooh, man, I shouldn't have done that. So I think he's getting better at saying, "Hey, we have a second place car. It's playoffs.
Yeah,
all these guys have problems. Let's push the car to the point where I'm going to try to win. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but let's know when it's time to just come home P2.
Let's not ruin our day in the process, And then at a certain point, you start seeing, Chris Buescher was catching up to him. He was trying to take second place. William Byron was right behind Chris Buescher, so now you have to kind of play defense, too, on top of it. But that's the reason why I'm a Reddick fan, too. Ever since the beginning, he's just constantly pushing those limits. Sometimes you step over it, and it bites you. A lot of times, he overdrove the car because, something would happen on pit road. He got frustrated. He's trying to make up those spots. It's like, listen, just calm down and take your licks,
And even when, to your point, though, even when you go over that line, if you go over that line on a consistent basis, you're going to get some data points.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to learn something from stepping over that line. Yes, you might have wrecked. You might have DNF'd a few of those. But during those DNFs and those wrecks, while you were up there, you collected some information, not only from the car perspective, but as a driver, you've collected some information. And I think you notice all the drivers that tend to push those limits, and go as far as they can and push that speed and push that car, they tend to be the fastest all the time because they're learning. They're figuring out. They're not just saying, okay, this is what my car's doing. No, as a driver, Reddick, Larson, they're going, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah. Can my car do it?
Can we get this to the point? That's the mentality
difference is they don't do what their car does. They want their car to do what they want to do. And they kind of, that's their mentality. That's their race style, which that's the way you got to become a champion.
And then that just helps the crew chief even more because now you're just able to break that car down even more and get it to the point where you need it to be to do those things, you know?
Right, okay, we went a click too far here. Let's dial it back a half and see where we're at. Yeah. You know, it's that hidden information that teams are looking for, but other guys are going out there and finding it and attacking it and trying to get that. You know, you're not going to get better just riding around and not trying to go that distance. So, those two they put on a show up there by the wall.
Oh yeah, it was exciting. I love that type of shit too. Like, I didn't realize just how good Reddick was at Darlington too. I think in the last 4 races he's finished in the top 5 in 3 of them, and that's 2 second-place finishes. So like, the win's coming at Darlington too. He's gonna get his Southern 500 eventually. He'll join the club. But we just got to get through the rest of this round of the playoffs and keep on going. A lot of people had Reddick falling out in the first round.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he shows them wrong. But let's see who else ran a pretty decent race. Jones looked great again at Darlington. He was battling for the lead. We talked about that, making up a whole bunch of spots on pit road.
That was always good to see there. Like you said, Reddick, this might be his best track. This is Eric Jones' best track.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Carson even said he talked to him a little bit before the race, and it helped him get to where he finished. So
yeah,
he knows how to get around this racetrack, and it's a wheelman's racetrack, and you know we haven't done that well, but to see the 43 and 42 perform well, they're not giving up either. So at the end of the season here, you know, still performing well and running up front, it was definitely nice to see.
That's a great point too. They're in a lame duck season. They're switching manufacturers next year, and they're still going out and trying to perform as well as they can and really putting it into it. And you want to see that. It gives you hope for next season. It gives me hope.
It's like we talked about earlier. I think it's due to the fact that I think they're going to keep everybody there and just change the manufacturer. So he's going to have the same crew chief. He's going to have the same car. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they're trying to build on that relationship here throughout, end the season strong as far as the relationship, car chief, crew chief, and team. You want to carry that to next year. So, you can't give up. You have to work through and still learn and put, you know, your best effort forward. And I'm glad that they're doing that.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm excited for next year for Legacy and the whole Toyota switch.
Teammates, baby.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait. Super Speedways, Daytona.
I kept saying it in the garage outside. I'm like, get this guy in a Toyota already. Will you get this guy in a Toyota?
Dude, I tell you what. So I said to you in the garage. I'll say it on the podcast, though. At first, last year, like, I liked rooting for Chevy. I liked rooting for RCR. You know, there was history and everything there. But this year, I turned to you, I go, it's kind of fun rooting for the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know, everyone hates Toyotas. It's kind of fun rooting for Denny. Because you want to know what? Secretly, I always kind of liked Denny. Denny was the winner of the Daytona 500 that I went to for my first race. I've seen Denny win more races in person than I've seen any other driver win, you know?
That's it. He dominated Pocono and he dominated Daytona, my 2 tracks that I go to twice a year.
So now I'm like, man, I'm glad I get to kind of root for Denny Hamlin, you know? Martin Truex Jr., I don't have any real connection with him. He's a Hall of Famer in the making, you know? He's a legend. Ty Gibbs, we're still out on that, but man, do I love Christopher Bell. Man, do I love Bubba. Like, I love just rooting for the bad guys, and Toyota's the bad guys. So it's like rooting for Henry Hill and Goodfellas. You know what I mean?
I can't wait to join the dark side, baby. I'm coming over.
I can't wait. Get Eric Jones back in the stable, baby. Bring Carson Hocevar from the trucks. He's got he's got heat on him. People don't like him from the truck series. Bring him on in. Fuck it. But let's see. Speaking of Christopher Bell, he looked good early. He led 3 times for 40 laps until he got damaged. Had a little bit of issues on pit road, overshooting the pit box and stuff. I think he had to back up. I don't remember exactly how he got his damage, though. He just got into the wall by himself, right?
Yeah, it seemed like he came off of, I think it was 4, hit the wall, and he thought like, oh, everyone's like, oh, is his toe out?
Yeah.
And I don't think he really recovered from that. I think it was on his own. I think he just got up and he just overdrove it a little too hard and went up into the wall.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys did that. I think that's what caused Joey Logano's first one. A couple other guys hit the wall pretty early, but just sucks because he had a really fast car too. Let's see. William Byron had a great finish. He qualified pretty poorly. He qualified in like the 20s, and he got himself a top 5. He got a 4th place finish. So he's still maintaining his position in the playoffs, doing what you need to do, staying consistent. Right now, this is like kind of a points game. You got to really prioritize points a little bit over wins.
Oh,
yeah. You know,
and that's a great point, man, because I feel like the first 26 races, everyone emphasizes getting that win and you're in.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, okay, you don't really talk about points until the end. But now these next 10 races, I feel like, yes, okay, you win, you're through the next round.
Yeah.
But I still think points are more important in the playoffs than a win is.
And even if you get that win, you still want to try to keep building those playoff points for stage wins, all that race wins, everything, you know? So like it's more points than wins. I feel like, you know, the win keeps you going if you fuck yourself in points.
Right.
And I feel after this week, I haven't been this excited for the playoffs in a while. Like last year, I feel like we kind of hit a wall during the playoffs and it wasn't as fun. This is the most exciting point of the season for me so far. I feel like I hit a wall earlier and now I'm amped up, you know? Let's see, Ross Chastain, he had a solid 5th place finish after not really being in the mix all day. He didn't get any stage points. So I don't know. I think he just kind of worked out for him. There was a couple cautions in the 3rd stage there that worked to his benefit. And then we got to talk about it. Kevin Harvick, man. He was hunting down Reddick before Newman wrecked. But there was some games being played. We talked about it a little bit before the show.
Well, Harvick essentially was going to win that race.
I think he could have. Yeah, he definitely was.
He
definitely
was going to jump him, and we all know that clean air up front
was king.
That was key. So as long as there was no other crazy bullshit cautions, the 4 was it was a 90% chance that he was probably going to go to victory lane.
And Reddick knew that. And as soon as he saw Harvick dip down, it was way too late for Reddick to get into the pits, but he still tried. And Newman ended up in the back of bumper.
Racing him so close. Why? Yeah. Like,
So here's the thing. I know a lot of...
So there's a couple laps before this went on where I noticed not only Ryan Newman in the 51, but also, I think it was JJ Yeley in the 15.
Yeah.
They were racing the leaders harder than I've ever imagined they would in those cars at Darlington, which is a fairly tight racetrack going around there where there's not a lot of room. They were racing Reddick super, super hard. And I found it kind of egregious for how hard they were racing them. You know what I mean? Especially when you're lapped down, you're not going to win. Like Newman. You've been around the sport for how long? You don't realize what is at stake right now and how you're racing them. That is what was going through my mind when I was watching them race so egregious. And lo and behold, we had an incident.
So I didn't know what the hell was going on in the moment. I just knew Ryan Newman wrecked. And I just took it at that. I'm like, oh, man, that was crazy. Fuck. But you want to know what? Reddick needed that caution to save him from Harvick jumping him. Didn't put much thought into it. I got home because up in your house, you really can't get on the internet. I like to browse Twitter during the race, just see what other people are talking about. People were fucking pissed at Reddick. And so I was like, I better go back and watch what the hell happened. And then I listened to the interview with him too. So this all kind of plays out. I know Harvick fans. Sorry, Shrey. I know you're real pissed off at Reddick, and you have every right to be. It was a dumb move trying to pit from the outside lane that late, you know? But listening to the interview, watching Newman kind of hold him up for a while, Reddick said on his interview he doesn't know why Newman was racing him that hard, but he knows Billy Scott, his crew chief, sent someone down to the 51 pit box to see what the hell was going on. And they said that there was a Kevin Harvick team member sitting on that pit box. So I think that maybe old Ryan Newman, a lap down, was kind of fucking holding him up to try to let Kevin Harvick gain that space. And he did a really good job doing it. So I have no sympathy for Kevin Harvick and that commitment line violation and pitting under yellow, because you want to know what? They're playing games of their own, Ford team owner type shit, Ford orders and playoff garbage. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think Reddick is, he's to blame, but I don't think he should be to blame.
It makes sense though, because Harvick wouldn't have short pitted unless he closed that gap on Reddick. Because it wouldn't have made sense if he didn't, because Reddick has such a big lead. Even if Harvick short pitted, by the time Reddick realized he's going to pit, calm down, the gap was so big that it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
So Harvick had to close that gap in order for that strategy to play out, to kind of trap him. Ooh, okay, let's gain on him. Okay, I'm going to pit now because I'm in that window where I could leapfrog him, and he's out a lap behind the pit cycle. Yeah. So that definitely... Dude, it happens all the time in NASCAR too, man, where teams go over and they start you go back to the most famous one. I mean, I think the most famous one is Richmond, right?
Yeah.
With the whole,
Michael Waltrip Racing, Spin Gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that whole, it goes on in the sport, and
it still goes on too. It still goes on to this day.
Yeah.
And you want to know what? Every team was doing it back then too. They weren't the only ones guilty. Everyone's fucking around, so I don't know.
Bad luck, man. It's bad luck. It's just that shit happens in racing, man.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks because you want to know what? Kevin Harvick probably was going to get the win if he was able to get that strategy to work. But at the same time,
you don't know, because that 5 was that long run speed. We said it even as soon as he got to my garage. We said it the long run speed. That's kind of who I went with as far as my fantasy picks, because I know at the end of these races, they've been green lately too, with not a lot of caution. So you have to go with those long run cars. And you don't know. That's why I said it was 90, maybe 80%. You don't know. But there was a pretty good shot. But yeah, that 5 had something. The 45 had something. And it's just bad luck. Yeah. And
that's what it comes down to. Kind of like BJ McLeod's bad luck. Everyone loves to talk about the winner on a Monday, one Kyle Larson, but here on the Bumper Run Podcast on a Tuesday, we like to talk about the guy who came in last place, and that was one BJ McLeod. He had an engine failure. He only completed 210 laps. I didn't see it on the broadcast. In fact, I confused him with JJ Yaley. His car blew up too, causing another caution. So who knows with that whole deal, what would have happened and how things would have shaken out. A caution was coming eventually. So, you never know. Spots could have been made up on pit road.
It came down to the restart choose, because EJ tried it. EJ, he was in, I think it was 3rd or 4th, and he chose to go up to the front and give it a shot. Let's take the front row. Let's see what we could do here. Gain 2 spots. You're on the front row. Let's see what we have. And that inside line, it just did not work. He had an opportunity he could have slid in front of Reddick there, but Reddick would have had to choke up, and that could have been an interesting thing there too. But you lose so many spots on the inside. So the leader, if you controlled that race and you got the restart on the top, man, was that key.
Oh yeah, yeah, and even too, like that last restart. I don't know if you noticed it. I saw it in watching it again. Larson didn't get a great restart. Reddick lifted his back tires off because Reddick started just pushing him. It kind of got he kind of got lucky that it gripped up and he was able to take it, or else I forget who was starting on the inside line. I think it was Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher could have made a move, but the push was just too good where he had to fall into line, So, man, this is what I love about playoff racing. This is what I love about racing in general. Every fucking move matters, This
is what I love about the podcast, too, because you relive the race. Sometimes you can watch it, you get it done, you get it over with. But with doing this show, it kind of it ingrains it in the brain. You break it down a little bit more, and then stuff stays a little bit better, after you break that. Because like I'm not, the race was good, it was an A, but as I hear you and we talk, and you're like, man, like
I forgot how good it was.
This race was a great race. Like, we're talking about all our stuff, and it's like, holy shit, like you forget about a lot of the stuff that goes on. So man, Darlington opening up the playoffs, leave it there as far as schedule goes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's all I have for the race weekend. Do you have anything to add? Anything you remember from the race?
What I remember was all you got for me today.
Yeah, oh yeah. We're that's why I watched the race again today, because we were drinking a lot of beers in the garage on Sunday night.
Liquor bowl came out, dude.
I didn't have any of the liquor bowl. I passed on the liquor bowl. I knew better, but but I didn't leave with any beers left in my cooler either. So that goes to show you. But let's see. I got no pick a lane. I know a lot of people were debating whether they should change the rule around the commitment line and pit road and entering under yellow. I don't even want to get into that, because I think it's just making excuses for a bad situation with Kevin Harvick. Too many hurt friends.
Same, I agree with that.
Hurt fans. But we have a race to look forward to. We're heading to Kansas Friday. Trucks on track 9 p.m. for the FS1 for the Kansas Lottery 200. I believe this is the cutoff race for the round of 12 for the trucks as well. Saturday, Xfinity on track 3 p.m. on NBC for the Kansas Lottery 300. And then Sunday, Cup on track 3 p.m. on USA for, you guessed it, not the Kansas Lottery, but the Hollywood Casino 400. So great weekend of racing ahead of us. To go over our picks from last week, Matt, he lost. He picked Martin Truex Jr. He got him 19 points. Eric, you came in second with Kevin Harvick. You got 25 points out of him. And I picked William Byron to win. He didn't win, but he got a top 5, and he got me 39 points. That means Matt picks first, you pick second, and I pick last. Matt sent his pick in, and he is going with Slick Willie 2 clocks to win in Kansas. How about you, Eric? Who are you picking?
Well, it's a shame that the stat man Matt wasn't here to give us any stats or really break down why he's picking Slick Willie, because as much as I just shit on Toyota this whole podcast, Kansas equals Toyota.
Yeah.
Toyota at Kansas. And the last time they were there, I think it was a complete top 5 was Toyota. It just, man, I know the Toyota's going to be strong, but their failures, I think they got it out of their system.
Yeah.
But I also picked this driver to make it to go through, and I don't think many people did, but I saw these racetracks. I know there's speed there. And how awesome would it be to see them golden arches back in victory lane and see Bubba Wallace in that 23, solidify him in the playoffs, and join Kyle Larson in the next round.
You all know what? I like it. He won this race last year when he wasn't in the playoffs. Here's the thing about last year, though. He was in that 45 car. I think the 45 car shook those gremlins off. Tyler Reddick's second Cup start ever. He got himself a top 10 here at Kansas. He likes to ride the high line at Kansas. The high line's good to him. I'm going with his teammate, Tyler Reddick, to keep the ball rolling. I like it. That's a homer pick 100%. But I hope one of our guys wins.
Hey, what's the weather at Kansas? Is there any chance this goes to Monday? Because I want to repick.
Switch to Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, if this race goes Monday, change it to Martin Truex Jr.
Well, we'll find out. To give an update on the playoff situation, though, let's see. 16th place, Michael McDowell fell 3 spots. He is now minus 19 points. Not looking good for McDowell. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. dropped 1 spot from 14th to 15th. He is now minus 4 points. Kevin Harvick moved up 1 spot from 15th to 14th. He is minus 2 points. And then Bubba Wallace moved up 3 spots from 16th to 13th. He is now negative 1 point. He is 1 point looking in. Can he get his win in Kansas? We will see. Christopher Bell now in 12th. He dropped 5 spots. He has 1 point to the good. Joey Logano stayed in 11th, but he lost 5 points. He is now only 3 points to the good. It's not looking good for Joey Logano right now. Ross Chastain also moved down 2 spots. He is now in 10th, 13 points to the good. Ryan Blaney up 3 spots. He is in 9th with 16 points to the good. Brad Keselowski moved up 1 spot. He is now 8th with 18 points. Kyle Busch dropping down 2 spots, but gaining 1 playoff point, which I thought was interesting. He is now in 7th with 20 points to the good. Martin Truex Jr. down 4, but he only lost 11 points. He's sitting plus 25. Denny Hamlin down 2 spots, but he also gained 2 playoff points. He's now plus 27 to the good. And Chris Buescher, he stayed in 4th, but he is now 27 points to the good. Tyler Reddick moved up 7 spots to 3rd. He is now 30 points to the good. William Byron down 1 spot, 45 points to the good. And Kyle Larson in 1st, locked into the next round of the playoffs. Who will get themselves locked into the next round? Will it be a first-time winner this season? Will it be someone outside of the playoffs, or will it be Bubba Wallace? We will find out. Will it be William Byron getting himself locked in, or will it be Tyler Reddick finally putting together that race this season and getting himself locked into the next round of the playoffs? We will find out this Sunday, 3 p.m. on USA for the Hollywood Casino 400, and we will talk to you again next Tuesday night. And we wish Matt well. Matt, hope you feel better, buddy. We missed you tonight. Love you. And for everyone else, watch those.
Make sure you do that report, though, Matt. Priest showed up with 2 swollen eyes after doing 14 barrel rolls.
Yeah, you could
Get
write
it together, Matt.
If Ryan Priest could show up the next week after that, you could write yourself a book report on this podcast. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night. Wash your hands and don't rub your eyes. That's how you get sick. And apparently it's summer flu season.
The bump and run.